From a soft spot, this could be a 5-star read. On Goodreads, I would say it's a high 4, but very critically, it may be only a 3-star read. Hi guys, this is Stan here. Today let's talk about a self-published fantasy series well loved by the fantasy community, which is The Broken and the Bound by Ryan Cahill. Last week I finished the first novella, The Fall, and also the first book of the series of Blood and Fire. I think these two books I have read are definitely something that I look for in a fantasy series, and also they're just so nostalgia, maybe possibly some references to other popular classic fantasy series. But at this moment of time, 2 books in, I don't think I found anything super groundbreaking. I've heard about that these 2 books perhaps are solid good start to an epic fantasy series. There are also more excellent reviews for the upcoming books, so I'm still looking forward to read this series in the future. And don't worry, this is a minimum spoiler video, which I will touch upon what had happened in these 2 books without going into all those details, all those plot twists. So you are safe to watch this video if you want to pick up this series in the future. Maybe perhaps it is because of my persuasion. Let's briefly talk about what this first novella, The Fall, is about. The Fall takes place 400 years before the first book of Blood and Fire, and it is about the time of Blood Moon, which is mass chaos everywhere, literally. In this really short 90-ish page novella, we will follow 4 POVs. The first one is Drelade, I hope I pronounce it correctly, which means Dragon Rider, and the POV is called Epheria. She tried to protect the city from the chaos created by the Blood Moon. The second POV is Kalinfa, who is a knight trying to save the city. Coron Farmer is our third POV, who is also a Dragon Rider. She works with other people who bound with the dragon, and hoping that her effort would help to save the dragon eggs remaining in the city. The last POV is our traitor, Altor Dathana, which I won't explain too much about it, obviously. After reading this short novella, I have such high expectation for the rest of the series. This less than 100-page long novella just packed with action scenes. There are dragon fights, there are fights with the magic system. In this world, there are 2 kinds of magic systems. One is called Spirit, which is weaving and combining different kinds of elements. An ultimate weapon, Soul Blade, can be created by using this kind of magic. The other one is called Bloodstone, which I guess it is like a dark force, and it will consume your life. Other than human and dragons, we also got different kinds of species like elves, giants, mythical creatures created by Ryan Cahill like Urex and the Fates. I guess all these elements are what you literally want in a fantasy series, which make me so excited about this series. I also feel like within these 100 pages, I did really care and root for all these characters. You don't want any of them to lose in this large-scale conflict. At this desperate moment of time, lose, grief, fear didn't stop our main characters to save the city, which make me totally invest in this story. Given that it is a self-published novella and with such a great start, I am impressed by all the hard work put in to build this new complex fantasy world, and I literally couldn't pick up the next book and the whole series. But the next book is not something that I was expecting, given that with such a great start. Coming to the first book of the series of Blood and Fire, it does remind me of some of the classic fantasy series like The Wheel of Time and The Lord of the Rings. This book takes place 400 years later than the first novella, and in this first book we will follow 3 boys, Callum, Rist and Dan, and they all live in a little village where it is like middle of nowhere. We will get to know them, their family, and literally everybody in this village. These 3 had to prepare for a test called The Proving, which is like a survival show, symbolizing your growth from a boy to a man. Since then, they have decided to leave the village and explore Epheria. Does this plot sound familiar to you? Because it reminds me so much of The Isle of the World by Robert Jordan, which is the first book of The Wheel of Time. We follow 3 boys in this first book, Caden, Rist, and Dan. Arguably, their personalities are like Rand, Perrin, and Mart. A chosen one, a modest one, a naughty one. They all coming from a little village where nobody give a F about. And because of some reasons, they have to leave their home. Some of the backgrounds of these characters are just like what I have read before. Even the magic system in this book, the Spirit, is like the one power in the Wheel of Time, which is the manipulation of the 5 elements. The use of spirit here is quite easy to understand and not overly complicated, which is a good thing to readers. Other than the 3 boys, we also follow Ella, who is Kellen's sister, and I think the arrangement for Ella is like Nynaeve in The Isle of the World. This close resemblance to the classic fantasy series, you may say it as, that's my soft spot, that's why I like fantasy books, but you can also argue from another perspective of lacking originality. With this pinch of salt, the story did unfold to a larger scale later in this book. Kellen will feel the pressure, the burden of responsibility, like the good old saying, with great powers come with great responsibility. Ella's chapters are lovely, but sometimes it may have some heartbreaking moments. The characters will got a chance to see the world and meet different kind of people. For some, maybe only existed in their legends and stories. They will be engaged in a bigger scope of conflict, which I believe none of them would expect it. Like in the novella, the battles, the conflicts here are really exciting and lively. With every confrontation, our main characters will learn something about what's going on with their power, with their potential. When some chapters end, it may shift to the perspective of a side character, which we got a glimpse of how they feel and what they want to do. Here, I like how the author has arranged all these little details, leads to the point of the conflict by the end of the story, or perhaps maybe in the later books. Things happen in the beginning for sure will affect the later part of the story. Some seeds are definitely planted, and I couldn't wait to check what they will do in the later books. In terms of all these characters, I wouldn't say that I am massively invested in them. Rather than significant character growth, I would say that our main characters are assigned with new identities and roles. Like other epic fantasy series, you wouldn't be massively interested in one particular character in the first book. I guess all these characters are still in their baby stage in this series. I would say that our main characters have just left their home, their village, and explore what's going on in the bigger picture. And also with the new power, they are still finding out what's going on with it. And hopefully in the future, they will use this power to save the world. All in all, I hope you understand what I have said in the beginning of the video. For my soft spot, it is definitely a 5-star. On Goodreads, I would say that it is a high 4, but very critically, I would say it is only a 3-star. From a very nostalgic point of view, I would say that this book definitely ticks all the boxes of classic epic fantasy series. But in terms of originality, sometimes, especially the beginning of the first book, I do feel like I have read this kind of plot before. This problem did improve by the second half of the book. With how this story ends and also the reputation of the next couple of books, I still couldn't wait to get back to the series and check out what will happen. So if you have enjoyed today's video, make sure you give it a like. If you don't want to miss any content from me, make sure you have subscribed to my channel. I will see you real soon. Goodbye.